Recently, I had a customer call and explain to me that once in a while his gun didn't shoot. And once in a while meant something like once out of every 15 times the gun just didn't shoot. He had done quite a bit of checking around in terms of swapping lasers, swapping the red box, swapping the trigger switch, and nothing seemed to make a difference. So I told him that he probably would need to go in and do a little bit of automatic camera exposure work, and we're going to do that in a moment. But first, let me say that in general, if you're having problems with the gun will not shoot, it's almost always a lighting problem in your room. And that is that dry fire works can give you two opposite malfunctions based upon lighting problems in your room. With small amounts of infrared on your wall that are there because of your room environment, the gun will actually see that and shoot on its own. Otherwise, if it is large amounts of infrared on the room, dry fire recognizes that it couldn't possibly come from the muzzle of your gun, and therefore when it sees all of that infrared on the wall, it just simply refuses to shoot. Now this particular customer, because his was so irregular, like one time out of 15, kind of limits the problem down to then maybe he has a spot on his wall where there is infrared, let's say in an area 2 inches circular over on the left-hand side of the screen, and only when the camera is looking over there and he shoots does it refuse to shoot. So it still could be a lighting problem in his room, but one of the things that we wanted to check was, is the camera sensitivity exposure value set high enough in order to be able to pick up all of the infrared coming from his gun. So we do this by going up to Setup, come down to System Configuration, and the System Configuration screen, this area down here is the exposure area for head number 1, which is the left-hand head, and head number 2, which is the right-hand head, and that's when you're standing behind the dry fire unit. Now come up here and put your mouse over the top of this slider, and I'm going to click on it, but don't drag it left or right, just click on it, and this one is set for 48, and the one below it, when I click on it, it's also set for 48. And I just wanted to do that so that you could see that after we do the exposure in my room right here, it's actually going to lower the exposure value. Hopefully in your room, because you're having a problem with not being able to see the target on occasion, it will elevate the number. If it doesn't elevate the number, then we're going to come in and we're going to force it to elevate the number just to see if we can possibly see it. But here's the automatic camera exposure. Click on it, and the dialog box it takes you to, leave this gain control alone up here. Come down here and click on the start button. You'll see here a progress going on. You can also hear that my head is being moved around the room as it's looking in various places. And now I get a message here basically saying that the exposure on my machine has been reset to 33 for both the left and the right hand heads. It apparently thought that the exposure was a little bit too high. It also tells us down here that if there's too much stray light around the room, then it's going to reduce the exposure. And if the shots are not easily seen, it needs to increase the exposure. All right, so I'm going to click on OK. I'm going to click on Cancel. And then when we come back to here, let's go ahead and just so that you can see, you can always test these by clicking on them. My head number 1 is now set to 33, and my head number 2 is set to 33. Now in the case of my customer's problem, where it couldn't see it, I doubt very seriously if it does the automatic camera exposure and lowers it from 48 to 33, that's not going to help his problem. So then the thing to do at that point is to go in here and click and drag this to something that in my case was higher than 48. Notice I can drag it all the way over to 100. Now, if you drag this over and try it, and it does see the target, but now you start getting other problems, you're still dealing with camera exposure and lighting issues. So those are the things that I told that particular customer. And if you're having problems with these same kinds of things, we hope this will help you. That's it from Dry Fire Bob.